Thanks for tuning into No Wine in No Time. I'm your host Dave, and today we're going to talk about a black skin red wine grape by the name of Alicante Bouschet. So Alicante Bouschet is a relative newcomer to the wine world, and it got its start in 1866 when a man who bears the same name, Henri Bouschet, crossed Grenache with a also family varietal by the name of Petit Bouschet. The end result was Alicante Bouschet. And what he set out to do was produce a grape that was better than its two parents. So let's talk about how he did. So with Alicante Bouschet, the one thing that's a real attribute of it is a very hardy type of vine. It's easy to cultivate. Matter of fact, the only detractor is that we need to do a lot of green harvesting to keep it from overproducing, to keep the quality of the fruit high. Secondly, Alicante Bouschet has very thick skins. And we think about a red wine, thick skins produce, that's right, tannins. And tannins are things that build body in red wine and also allow it to age for significant periods of time. It also has a significant amount of color. So when we think about what makes a red wine red, it's things called phenolic compounds and anthocyanins. And normally in traditional grapes, we get that from the skins only. So if we take a traditional wine grape, cut it in half, you'd see that the pulp inside is actually clear, and all of the color is coming from extended maceration on the skins. With Alicante Bouschet, that's actually different. I'm going to introduce a term to you called teinturier. And this term is French, and it stems from the root word to stain or to dye. In a teinturier grape, when we cut that grape in half, the center or the pulp is actually red. So it has anthocyanin compounds inside. So now we're not only getting color from the skins, but we're getting it from the juice of that grape. And that's very rare in the Vitis vinifera wine-growing grape world. So when we think about the success of a grape like Alicante Bouschet, it became all the rage in the south of France. And by the turn of the century, turn of the 20th century, there was about 40,000 acres under vine. But guess what? Everybody else in the world started to find out about this grape, and we started to see it in places like Alentejo, Portugal, and also in California in the New World. And everybody started to fall in love with this grape. Now, when we think about how it started to evolve and grow in France, it actually started to fall out of favor in France in about the midway through that 20th century. And the French, from the beginning, had always used it as a blending grape. But in Alentejo and also California, they started to focus on monovarietal or just single varietal wines. So in other words, 100% Alicante Bouschet. So today, we don't see a ton of Alicante Bouschet in France, and we see it more in those other parts of the world. So for the example that I'm going to share with you today, I did pick one from Alentejo, Portugal. So this wine comes to us from Fiuza, and with Fiuza, it's 100% Alicante Bouschet. So let's take a look at it and see what we think. So as we look through the wine, we actually see it's dark, almost completely opaque, maybe just a little bit where it thins out around the edge, we see some purplish edges. So that's exactly what we would expect from this type of grape. If we swirl to liberate the aromas, what leaps out of the glass is everything from roasted meats to a lot of savory herbs to just a bit of dark fruits, think plums and black cherries. So let's take a sip and see how it passes the palate. When we take a sip of Fiuza's Alicante Bouschet, it really is a flavor explosion on the palate. When it hits the front side of the palate, we have everything from black raspberry to plum to a little bit of blackberry to bright cherry type of flavors. Mid-palate, we feel those savory herbs. And when I say savory herbs, I'm kind of getting things like almost thyme and a little bit of fennel, maybe even a little bit of rosemary, and beautiful acidity through the mid part of the palate. When we feel it roll across the back side of the palate, we almost get a cherry liqueur type of finish with a little bit of toasted oak. So kind of almost a melange of different flavors. Really beautiful, and this is a wine that has some fairly significant tannins and one that could age for a long period of time. So when we think about what I would pair with an Alicante Bouschet like the one I have in my glass, I think things on the grill, and especially things with more sauces. So let's think of maybe barbecued ribs with a little bit of savory barbecue sauce on them. I think that would be great. A little bit of grilled pork loin. I think it would be good with a steak, but I'm thinking more of a leaner steak, more like a filet mignon than a ribeye. But think everything coming from the grill. This wine would pair beautifully with that. So I'm getting hungry, and I'm going to get back and enjoy a little bit more of Fuse's creation. And I ask that you come back next time, because soon you'll know wine in no time.